Alright, what's up guys? Dugan's here to tell you how to go through Warcraftlogs. Um, Basically, Warcraftlogs is the most powerful tool um, ever. It's basically the perfect combat log. It's the perfect version of Recount and SCADA, and you can literally view everything that everybody does at all times. And I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of that. So the first thing that Warcraftlogs does that's really cool is it does like statistics based across like everything that's come in data wise. This is Mythic, so we'll learn how to browse this later. But let's go to Heroic, and as you can see, all I did was I clicked on Browse, High Mall, and then Statistics, and change it to Heroic or whatever you want to view. And you can look at player DPS statistics for all bosses, all specs, all item levels, 50th percentile, right? Now, as you can see, the average, the 50th percentile of like all of these hundreds of thousands of pieces of data basically say that the average DPS right now is, it gives them a score, right? But let's change that. So we're going to click on aggregate using normalized score to aggregate using DPS and HPS amounts. You can see kind of the middle of the pack is right at 22k. Highest is at 24, lowest is just shy of 21. So a little maybe over 22k is kind of what the average should be right now. And then this is a graphical representation. And as you can see, December 4th, like when this stuff like first came out, see, DPS isn't really that much lower than it is now. So as people have geared up, it's made the average kind of increase, maybe 3 or 4k. You know, fire, obviously certain specs are very gear dependent, like fire mages, where they just skyrocketed up as soon as they got up there. But this is just kind of cool. So whenever I hear somebody say, "Oh man, elemental shamans are really terrible right now," I'm like, not really. I mean, the average is 21k. I mean, yeah, they're not up here with Windwalker monks, who are still overpowered, and even after the nerfs, you can see it's been a steady increase for them. You know, it's just like, this is a pretty good spread. It's a 4k difference. It's pretty fucking good. So there's just stuff like that to think about. So like when people say, "Oh yeah, marksmanship hunters are terrible," you know, like survival hunters are actually better than marksmen right now for some reason. I don't know shit about hunters, so whatever. You know, retribution paladin. But this is just across all bosses. So you can see like on the butcher who does well. Feral druids are the best, then survival hunters, then arcane mages, then windwalker monks. And this is just an average, right? But if you, like, let's say we wanted to go to the 99th percentile, the best of the best, you could see that their DPS is on, this is the average of the 90th percentile of players. Arcane mages are pulling 33k on this, which is insane. And then here are the rankings for that. So it's just like, you know, it's not a class issue, it's not a gear issue, it's just a skill issue in terms of, now for this guy pulling 33k, he's probably got some sick gear. But you gotta remember, this is the average of the 99th percentile. So let's look at that. Let's go to Arcane Mages. And let's take a look at some of the best Arcane Mages that kind of fall into this criteria here. So we're gonna go to Browse. And this is, you can do this for any spec. And this is what you need to learn to do, so pay attention. You're gonna go to Browse, you're gonna go to High Mall, you're gonna go to Rankings, and it's gonna bring up the rankings for like, it's gonna give you an All-Stars thing, which I don't even know how that works. And then it's going to give you like each boss in the rankings. It gives you the top 10 in the world on Mythic. So like, you know, you can see on the Butcher, there's a Red Paladin that did, 37k in the world on Mythic. That's pretty good. So let's look at Heroic. And let's look at the Butcher. And let's look at Arcane Mages. So we're going to go to Buy All Classes here. We're going to go to Mage. We're going to go to Arcane. Okay, there's that. And you know what? Item levels. Let's look at some lower item levels, because we have a lot of people that are pretty low. Now, this should amaze you. Look at this person. Eozera from the guild Wartorn on the realm near Zul had a 646 item level at the time and pulled almost 29k DPS on a fight that lasted almost 5 minutes. Now, that's insane. 646 Arcane Mage just beat all of our best DPS in the guild in 646 item level. An Arcane Mage. This should bother you. If you're a DPS, you should be like, whoa. And it's not because Arcane Mages are overpowered. It's not because they are in a guild that killed them fast, because they're killing them in about the same speed that we are. I think our kill was about 4 minutes and 58 seconds. This is Clearly, this guy knows how to play his class to the best of his ability, and it's yielding him these results. Now, can you say the same about yourself? That's the question. And a lot of you are going to say, well, I mean, yeah, I know how to play my class. No, you don't. You don't. No one knows how to play their class the best that they can. This site is a learning tool. Warcraft is a learning game. It requires constant research because it's constantly changing. Nerfs, patches, expansions, new fight mechanics, everything's always changing. So you always can learn. Now let's look at this guy's armory. And it'll link you straight to their armory page. Now you can see, since then, he's geared up a little bit because this fight was from, 11 days ago. So now he's a 656. You can see his stat priority. You can see his enchantments. You can see what, he's doing. And if he's pulling these kind of numbers on a fight with that kind of item level, you can safely assume he knows what he's doing. Or you can look at any of these other people that are doing kind of the same thing. 645 item level, 26k. Just all kinds of these things. So you can look at this and see what he's rocking. What's his enchants? Yeah, he's going all mastery. Makes sense. Look, he doesn't even have the best mastery enchant on his ring. And then look at this. If you're an arcane mage or a mage in general, look at these people's trinkets. Because look, this guy's got a 620 trinket and a 630 trinket. Now, the Stranic Philosopher's Stone is a lot better than people think. And look, he's using a heroic trinket when he's got 640 and 670 gear. Holy shit. So you need to know that. You need to do research on why that's good. So if you're a hunter and there's a trinket that's kind of like this, it's a blue trinket, but it's really good for you. All you would do is you would go to buy all hunters, select your spec, look at the same stuff. Now, let's look at this guy. Let's see. The gear's not going to tell us much, so let's see what we can do here. Okay, there's the DPS. Let's look at him more in depth, though. So I just clicked on his name, and now it brings up the percentage of damage done based on his abilities. Now, this is cool. 40% of his damage was Arcane Blast, right? It's still not enough information, though. So let's go to casts. And first off, let me just say, he did not cast Arcane Missiles 234 times. He channeled it for 234 hits. So it's one of those things you got to pay attention to. So really, you should divide this number by 5. Anyway, events view. Now, this pulls up every ability that he actually activated in the opening of this fight. And throughout the whole fight, it's all recorded. So you could see, 1 minute, 1 second into the fight, casted Arcane Blast. That means, look, it's a 2.25 second cast. He doesn't have that much haste. That means he started casting it before the tank entered combat. That kind of coordination is really helpful. Time Warp. Arcane Blast. Arcane Blast, Arcane Blast. He did 4 of them, so he's got 4 charges. Then he hits Prismatic Crystal in his cooldowns. Arcane Missiles the shit out of him and just keeps it going. When does he evocate? You can look at that. He only evocates in this fight 3 times. I believe we can look at that by going to tables. Evocation. Yeah, he only did it 3 times. So you can look at everything. But I can't see where the procs are, Dugan. What do I do? If you go to buffs gained, you can see when things proc. So look, at 6 seconds in, he gained the Arcane Missiles proc. And if you go to summary, with events view still viewed, you can literally see everything that happens. It's a lot to read through, but it's stuff that needs to be done because clearly we're not up to snuff doing that. Now, here's the thing. This guy, let's go to the 24-second mark. Dranic Intellect Potion fades from Eozera at 24.6. It lasts for 25 seconds. That means he pre-potted. Now, I've gone through our logs from the Butcher kill. Guys, less than half of our DPS pre-pot. That's your job. That's your job. You have one job, to do as much DPS as possible. And you're telling me you're not willing to pay, a little bit of gold to increase your DPS by that much for 25 seconds? It's my job as a healer to power word shield the shit out of people, Prayer of Mending, Smite Heal the boss, Flask, I put down food, I do a fair amount of raid leading. That's my job, because I enjoy doing it. Now, all of you have selected DPS because that's what you enjoy doing, and yet you're not doing it. So that's the problem here. And I've gotten a lot of people that have said, Oh, it's Warcraft logs. Blah. Are you kidding me, guys? Are like, do you not care that much? Because everything is here. This is why I'm making this video, to show you the error of ignoring Warcraft logs. Not everyone is doing that, but there have been a few people that have been pretty snarky about looking at meters, and I can tell you right now that on the butcher kill we only had 5 people pre-pot. And why do I know that? Because of Warcraft logs. Because right now, the biggest thing that caught my eye is our DPS is extremely low. I don't have the right stat priority for Shadow, but I'm able to go in there and do, with Spirit enchantments and Critical Strike enchantments, I'm able to do 16 or 17k in the Butcher. That's a lot higher than other people, and that was a few weeks ago. So that's when I first realized what's going on with our DPS, and then I started looking at the averages. On December 2nd, when this stuff came out, the average DPS was doing like 19k. And our average was more like 14 or 15k. Yeah. Guys, that's a 25% difference. And my brother put it really cleverly, because I was talking to him about it. He's playing Destiny in the background. He raid leads for that game. He's pretty good at it. He's a smart guy. He's a nice guy. He said, at one point, you got to think of it. If you had a business that had 3 different facets, right? You had like shipping, you had packaging, and then you had like the manufacturing part, right? Let's say healers are the shipping, or tanks are the shipping, healers are the packaging. The biggest part is manufacturing, the DPS. If your manufacturing is 25% high behind what the rest of the world is doing, other companies are doing, you're not going to be able to have the same success. Now, it's this simple, guys. You read what you need to do. Let's say you're not an arcane mage. High Mall, rankings, we'll go to heroic. We're going to go to 647 to 0 item levels. And then let's look at balanced druids, just for shits. Okay, let's look at the butcher. Look at this. A 646 item level did 24.7k. A 646 item level. How is that possible? Then we do the same thing. We go to casts. We go to events view. We click on his name. And we can see, okay, he's heavy on Wrath. Let's look at how he did this. Boom, right off the bat, he hits everything that he has. Star Surge, Moonfire, Starfire, Starfire, Star Surge, Starfire, Starfire, Star Surge. I've seen a lot of Resto Druids, or Balanced Druids, and this is the opening. That Star Surge, 2 fires after doing Celestial Alignment and other cooldowns. Star Surge, dot, Fire, Fire, Star Surge, Fire, Fire, Star Surge, Fire, Fire, refreshing the dot when needed. So, it's one of those things where, like, you just have to look at stuff like that. And, like, I don't know how to play a Balanced Druid, but I know that if this guy's doing 33% of the damage at Starfire, and I look at one of our Balanced Druids, and it's not anywhere close to this, and as a result their DPS isn't anywhere close to this guy's, that tells me that guy just hasn't been doing his research. That guy's not doing what's optimal. It's like, it's the same thing as speccing into a shitty talent. Everybody has that one talent. Some of us have 4 or 5 talents that are just like, you would never spec into them. It's the same thing. This guy would look like, there are some people that would look at our combat logs, like, because I can't play every spec, but when I look at a combat log and I see a difference between what this elemental shaman is doing versus what our elemental shamans are doing, like, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. So let's look at another one. Browse, High Mall, rankings. Let's go to heroic. Let's go to 0 to 647 item level. And let's go to the butcher. And what class do we want to look at? Let's look at rogues. Now, I didn't select a spec, but it tells me everything that they're doing here. Now, our subtlety rogue, Chase, one of our guild leaders, Stay a While, as some of you may know him. Genjuro is his rogue's name. He's one of maybe 2 people, and I do mean only 2 people, that are actually doing what is expected in terms of looking at their DPS versus their item level. Like, Chase could, I'd say Chase right now, based on his DPS to item level, because I look at these logs like all the fucking time, Chase is probably in the top 1 percentile of rogue performance when it comes to his amount of DPS that he's putting out versus his item level. And how do I know that? Because I want to know why our DPS is sucking, so I do homework on it. I can't do all the research for you, so that's why we're doing this. Browse, Heimal, rankings. Let's go to heroic. Let's go to class. And you know what? This time, let's look at some healers. I'll look at myself. Because, I mean, like, even I have a long way to go. And I've like, no joke, guys, I've looked at, like, dozens and dozens of healers, discipline priests specifically, on how they do shit. And that's why I'm consistently a really good healer on these fights. So, like, let's look at item level. So I have an item level, like, 640, I think I have a 648 or 647 item level, because I haven't been here. But, like, let's look at this guy. I've broken 30k a couple times, but this guy's a 645, and he's doing 36k item level? Let's look at why that happens. See, now this is why. It's a little different. He annihilated the other healers. Is it because he's better than them? No, healing's a little different because you can only heal as much as the damage that's being put out. So, this guy, 72% of his damage was power word shield. That means he's putting a shield on someone before they even take damage. Now, that sounds really good, and it makes his numbers look really big, and it makes his dick feel really big, and, his EP-ness is massive. But look at this. All of these heal over time healers are doing absolutely nothing, because all of the damage is being soaked up by this priest's power word shields. So the best thing to do for me, after I've done lots of research on different priests, is, I want to use power word shield almost exclusively. It should be a large portion of my healing, probably 50 to 60%. But I want to do it after someone's taken a little bit of damage. Because if I shield someone that's at full health, there's no synergy between those hot classes. That's where the synergy comes into play. I shield someone that's at 75% of their health, they don't continue to take any more damage, and the druids and monks heal over time to kind of bring them up. The shamans bring them up with chain heal AoE. So, like, healers have it really easy right now. Like it's one of these things where, like, this kind of number here, where you see one heal is that large of a percentage of what's happening, that's pretty common. Let's go to browse, Heimal, rankings. Of course, the site is deciding to be slow now. Well, anyway, the site decided to go down. But you get what I'm talking about here, guys. You can look at every single thing. So when someone says Warcraftlogs isn't going to help me, you are wrong. Because numbers don't lie. And everything that a player does is recorded in numbers through these logs. So we're starting to get to the point now where, like, we're having a smaller heroic group these past couple weeks. And that's simply because, guys, the amount of DPS required on stuff like the Butcher, like, my expectation of our DPS in our guild, like, you should never, no matter what your item level is, you should never be below 17k DPS. And if you have a 645 item level or higher, you should never be below 21k DPS. Like, and that's based on what averages are. Right now, our percentile average of what's going on with our guild, the majority of our DPS are below average. And how do we expect to be a progression guild if we're below average? So I know I'm, like, sounding like I'm scolding a little bit, and maybe because I am slightly, but the opportunity for you to help yourself become a better player is here in Warcraftlogs. So, remember, browse, Heimal, rankings, select the criteria across the top of the page. You find someone that's doing an impressive number that's not a good item level. You click on them, you click on their name, you see what their abilities are. You click events view, and then you click casts or summary, and you can view everything that goes down in that fight, and you can learn when they're using certain cooldowns, because clearly the majority of us are not doing what's optimal. Myself included on some fights, which is why I constantly research and I'm constantly getting better. That's one thing I like about myself. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but, like, by the 5th or 6th attempt, because I radically change everything that I do per attempt and per week, I get better. I improve very rapidly just because I know how to do my research. It's not because I'm a good player. I just have a good UI and I know how to use my tools that are at my disposal. And the biggest tool at my disposal is Warcraftlogs. So, excuse me. Please use the logs, guys. Because we got to get to a point where, like, we can do the smaller heroic group, like a couple times here and there. That's cool. But, like, what happens when we want to get to Mythic? We do need 20 people that are the shit that will get us into Mythic. And it's starting to get to the point now where I'm actually considering switching DPS. And that's not fun. I don't want to have to switch what I do because people aren't pulling their weight. And it's not like you guys mean to. I think it's just we're a little ignorant of the fact of what other people are doing. And this site really helps us educate ourselves. Because the hardest part of this game, guys, is following mechanics. It's not the rotation. It's not any of that. And we are very good at following mechanics. So if we can just learn the easy part, how to maximize our DPS, how to maximize our healing, how to use cooldowns properly at certain points, we got this. Because we do mechanics fine. Like, that's what people struggle with. And we don't struggle with that at all. We just got to set higher standards for ourselves on our numbers. So, thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good holiday.